and welcome to the Step Stories podcast. I'm your host, Robin Breuner, and I'm here today with my guest, Amy Bonetti. Hi, Amy. Can you hear me?
Hi, good afternoon.
Thanks for
Perfectly.
being here and for being on the show with me today. I've gotten to know Amy recently, and as soon as I met her, she was just bursting with personality, and we started talking a bit, and I knew she had a great story to share, and I wanted to share it with all of my Step Stories listeners. Um, and I was thinking about you last night, Amy, and about your story, and I was thinking, what is her story? What's at the heart of her story? And to me, it's the story of a daughter's enduring love for her mother and whatever forms that takes and how that's affected you. Do you agree with that idea?
Absolutely. It's the center stone of my life and heart. Yeah. I wear this every day in honor of her.
No. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
The heart is right there. I love that. And I really love your story as a daughter and as a mother myself. And I was also thinking about the fact that now that I've done a few of these interviews, I'm really reaping the rewards of seeing both sides. And a lot of my step story was of me as a child and young adult. And I think you've got a lot of that too. But it's been interesting to see it through the eyes of a mother and see the other side of things too. So I'm learning as the stories unravel about all the angles. You know, you get perspective from time. But anyway, before we go into all that in your childhood, tell me about you. Let's share a little bit about your PR agency. And I know you've had quite a career.
Well, let's see. I moved down to San Diego in 1978 when I graduated from high school and went to San Diego State. Short-lived. My mother got sick when I was down there. So I moved home so I could help her with my younger siblings. And I enrolled at Foothill College, a junior college. I was a little disappointed in the whole thing, but it all worked out. I got recruited from a friend's parent to go work at Atari, the makers of Pong and Pac-Man, and then got recruited over to Apple Computer Inc. It was called back then. And I was at Apple for 13 years. I started out in marketing and then got recruited to the Apple University department, which was a big deal. We were the first to do outward bound experiences, etc. And then I got recruited up to John Scully's office to be the second assistant up there in a very busy office. This was in the
That's pretty
heyday of
cool. Wow.
Apple in the 80s and 90s. So
How
my eyes were
exciting.
as big as saucers, and I worked a lot and traveled a lot. And then he ended up making me his personal assistant. So I was 26 years old and really running the life of one of the most important executives, if not the most important executive at the time. So that was exciting. And then after I left Apple in 95, I started Big Mouth PR and started launching internet companies, launched Google and many others, I think close to 300. And now I do not focus on tech at all. I haven't in years. I do lifestyle, friends, books, restaurants, whatever I want now.
That's
And I am married to a husband of 25 years. We got married when we were 40, and I have a daughter that's 24.
nice.
And we live in Marin County,
Another Marinite.
California. Yeah.
Well, let's dig into your story. Tell me about your mother to start with. Where'd she grow up?
She grew up in Aberdeen, Washington, way up on the North Coast in Washington State. And she has kind of a complicated story too. I think I mentioned to you that she found out very late in life in her 30s that her father wasn't her real father. And that upset her immensely because he always treated her a little bit differently than their sister that he and my grandma had together.
Oh.
And it turns out that my grandmother fell in love with and was engaged, and the guy ended up having to go back to Finland to run a farm, and he never sent for her. She met my Papa Floyd shortly thereafter. She told him the whole thing, and he said, "I'd marry you in a minute." And so they never told my mother or her sister that my mom wasn't his child. And so that was hard for her in her 30s, and when we all found out. She ended up, because he was kind of grumpy with her, she ended up moving to my Grammy's house up near Seattle and lived with her for a couple of years to finish high school. Then she moved to Seattle and met a guy named Bill Maynard, who she married. And they quickly had an annulment, like in 7 months, because they realized they were too young. And he is still a family friend today,
Oh.
which is interesting. And how I found out about that was looking in my grandmother's photo albums, and I saw a picture, an album and photos of my mother marrying some guy I've never seen before. So that was kind of shocking.
Oh, I'll bet. How old were
My
they when
mom,
they
she
got
was in
married? Did you say?
California.
What's that?
Oh, like 19,
Oh,
19, 20. They were just too
okay.
young, and
Yeah.
they remained friends all the years. But I remember calling my mom and going, "Who is this man?" I was crying. Anyway, that was kind
That
of
is, that's
hard.
interesting. That's
And
what's weird. What's weird about that is you just said your grandma also, her mother also had, this guy, and your mom didn't have a baby with this first husband, but it's sort of interesting that your mom was
no,
upset about her father being in Finland and having a different father, and now this played out with you guys in a different way. But well, okay, so what happened? What
right.
happened then? I know she met
So
the
then
next person.
she's in she's in school, and she meets a guy named Ron Gerger. He was a baseball player at University of Washington, and then he got picked for the Triple A's. They decided to get married, and he was this tall, 6'4", dark hair, blue eyed guy. And they had Michelle, my younger sister, who's 11 months younger than me, and I pretty quickly. And everything, then he got moved up from the Triple A's to to play for Chicago and for Cincinnati. And then he just kind of, she didn't know if he was having affairs, but he was drinking a little too much sometimes in between games, etc. And after 3.5 years of that, she decided he wasn't for her and he wasn't for us. So my Papa Floyd, came out from Washington, picked us up with a little trailer and a truck. And that's the last I saw him until I was 17 years old, which was fine with
Wow.
me. So my
Wow.
mom was now living back in Seattle with 2 little children, with 2 girls, and she went to work at RCA Records as, at the secretary pool or something. I think they called them stenographers back then. And she met Tom Bonetti, who was a regional sales manager for the West Coast. He lived in San Francisco, and they started dating. And he proposed pretty quickly, fell madly in love with her. She wasn't so sure, so she kind of didn't hurry into it. And then they ended up getting married.
Okay, wait, and
And
I'm gonna stop you for one
yeah,
second. Can you hear me,
yeah,
Amy?
yeah.
Okay, okay, good. No, just because I have questions. One of the things that I was struck by about your mom is what a strong woman she was, because back in those days, I'm envisioning Mad Men kind of, her, this beautiful young woman, and in these different jobs with these different men. And it seems like in those days, women kind of gutted through marriages. I mean, especially being married to a professional baseball
Exactly.
player. And, she had a lot of strength. I mean, she's already on her third marriage. And how old was she?
Yeah,
How
yeah,
old?
27 by this point.
My gosh.
But she
But
was very
she had
strong.
she what? What'd you say? Sorry.
She was very strong, but she was
Yeah.
very soft and feminine too. She wasn't loud like me or hyper like moving like I do and all of that. she was kind of gracious and very kind of Jackie Kennedy and, just kind and nice. And she just wasn't going to put up with these damn men. She watched her papa be kind of, grumpy. And she went to live with her grandmother, and she was very strong. She ran the first woman ran, Episcopalian church or whatever in Washington, and she was very strong, but also very kind. And she learned a lot from her, not from her mother. Her mother was not strong like that.
Interesting. Interesting. That's where I was
Yeah,
wondering where her strength came from because it sounds to me like she wanted to put herself and you girls as her first priority over marriage, even though she quickly got
absolutely.
remarried. But I think that that's impressive quality, and I know you inherited that strength. But all right, we'll keep going
She married
about.
Tom Bennett. So so they divorced. She married Tom Bonetti, and when she called Ron Gerger, our real father, to say that she's marrying Tom Bonetti and that he wanted to adopt us, and he said, "How much will it cost me to not allow that to happen?" And she gave whatever the small amount was, and he said, "Okay, it's okay, but please keep in touch with me and send me photos every year." So we were his only children. He ended up remarrying and they couldn't have children, so he ended up adopting
Mm,
his brother's child, who, as it turns out, is my cousin. We just figured this out a few years ago. And
okay.
I'll explain it to you later. The mother died, and the baby needed to be adopted, and so he adopted her. So he raised her as his child, but she's also my cousin, really. So
Your
then
cousin
with Tom
and
Bonetti, we all
your
moved to
half sister.
stepsister,
Yeah.
half sister, right,
Yeah.
right.
I'm not sure.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
I guess half
I'll have
sister.
to send this to her.
Do you have a relationship with her? Do you have a relationship with her?
You know what? We talked a lot when I called her, and we were talking, and we're friends on Facebook and stuff. I've been thinking about her, and I owe her a call. So I will do that because I'm not on social media as much as I used to be. That's how we used to kind of talk. So she married Tom Bonetti, and because he was always flying like every other day, we moved up on Skyline Boulevard, off of Skyline in San Bruno. And we were quite happy little family there. My mom had another baby, Teddy Bonetti,
Teddy
when I
Benetti. I
was
love that.
5. Teddy Bonetti. Yeah,
It's a
Teddy
great
Bonetti.
name.
Theodore Layton Bonetti. I know. And then they had Mimi Bonetti, yeah, when I, what, 3 years later.
So
And
how
we
old were
all lived
you at
there
this
pretty
point?
happily. And then when
How
Teddy was born, I was 8. Yeah. Oh, I was, so when we lived there up until I was 10, at 10, we moved to Los Altos down on the peninsula. They had built a custom home. We all lived in Los Altos. All 4 of us kids went down there, and we had a great time growing up in Los Altos.
and were you
But
close?
then,
Wait, Amy. Were you guys
very,
close? Yeah.
as
Okay.
children or as a family,
Well, as a family, but particularly you children.
absolutely. So we were not raised by calling each other half brother and sister or any of that because I was a Bonetti since I was like, 3.5 or 4.
Hmm.
So I always said I turned Italian when I was 4. But no, we never mentioned it. And we hated when other people did, to be honest. We'd say, "So
Mm.
that's your half brother and sister?" And we'd say, "No." Because really, I don't remember much of Ron Gerger. I have 3 distinct memories. So, and Tom Bonetti is a great dad. Fantastic. The marriage wasn't so great, but he was wonderful to us
Mm. That's good to
until
know.
he wasn't. But whatever. Um, so anyway, then 2.5 years later, after we moved to Los Altos, our cleaning lady's daughter drowned in our pool, and that set everything on fire at our house. My mom was just beside herself. All of us children, we were all, well, some of us were there, some of us weren't, out by the pool. I was up in Washington. My 3 brothers and sisters were all there. My younger brothers and sisters were all
Mm.
there. And we had Betty as a cleaning lady since I was 4 or whatever. And they lived in South San Francisco by the doggy diner. Anyway, she drowned. She
Mm.
went upside down. She was a terrific swimmer. It was really
Oh,
sad. And Betty would never talk to us again, which broke my heart. We were very close to
oh,
her.
that is
Things were not the same after
tragic.
that
Yeah.
with their marriage. Anyway, she ended up telling him she wanted a divorce, and
Wait,
she
wait,
wanted to get
wait.
out of. I know.
Wait, I'm saying, wait, time out for just a second because I want to slow the story down a little bit.
Okay,
I wanted
okay.
to go backwards before we got onto that tragedy, which is a true tragedy. I wanted to talk, though, about the fun part about when your mom was married to Tom Bonetti because of his job, because that for me is kind of a fun thing. And I think people listening like stories like this, but I know he was a record executive and you would have
Right.
some pretty interesting house guests, right? During that time.
We did. We did. We had a lot of singers and songwriters visiting us, and he was one of those dads that every weekend was like, "Are we going? Where are we going? What are we doing?" And my mom, when in those early days before they divorced, she would go too. So it was all over the Bay Area, and all four of us would be in the station wagon or the Jag, whatever we chose, convertible, and we would have a ball, and it was great. And he teased her a lot, and she didn't like being teased, and so we thought that was so funny to tease mom like we didn't, you know. And she was easily teasable. Um, uh, and anyway, he was really a terrific dad, and he never had children before Michelle and I. So he just picked up, and he was the his brother and him are 8 years apart, so he wasn't around a lot of little kids. So it was always kind of surprising. And then when their marriage just didn't, she just couldn't be married to him anymore. He was a little bit narcissistic, maybe they all kind of were, which she hated, but they didn't act like that in the beginning. And she was a gourmet cook. She ran a beautiful house, puts Martha Stewart to shame, seriously. And he would say she would make a 4-course dinner. We'd all be around the table in our Lance nightgowns and whatever. And he would say, "This chicken feels a little salty." She'd be like, "What the hell?" Like she'd do these beautiful gourmet meals every night. So it was like she just got tired of that. He was a little spoiled by his mother, you know, and he was just used to women being handling everything. But he
Well,
didn't treat
okay,
us children
okay.
like that.
Okay, I'm envisioning this is the era of like the Brady Bunch and the Partridge Family, right? In that kind of like
Yes,
time
yes,
frame. And you were telling me this is the
yes,
part I want to get back to, even
absolutely.
though this is supposed to be about step stories. Sorry, but I like this part of the story. You had Cher in
Oh,
your
you want me to
home.
name drop?
I want
You
you
want
to
me to
name
name
drop.
drop?
Of
Yeah,
course, I
well,
want you. You're so modest, but I want you to
yeah,
tell the
but
stories
my
because that's
parents
kind of
hung out.
interesting.
My
What?
parents hung out with people like that. My parents hung out with people like that. Yeah, it was fun and interesting. We go to company picnics and all sorts of concerts. We go to see Elton John, and then people would be singing at our house. My dad would be testing them out. He's the one who discovered Al Stewart and just all that kind of stuff. But my dad was very modest. He's like Mensa smart, and he was very modest about all of that and wasn't a name dropper. And my mother wasn't like that either. And they wouldn't have those big wild parties. They had dinner parties and cocktail parties more often. And, um, yeah, Sean Cassidy and funny people were at our house.
Well, who?
But
Tell
we would
us.
bet.
Well,
Oh,
I
now
remember.
now I go blank. That's what
Okay,
happened.
Cher, you told me the story about Cher being there wearing and
Yeah,
this outfit she was wearing. Tell
Cher.
tell that story. So she was
Oh,
wearing
it
the
was a
outfit.
suede vest. Oh no, with like bell sleeves in this beautiful turquoise blue with that laced up the front, and then it had a long skirt, all matching suede, and it was gorgeous.
And
And
did your
I mean, I
mom
can remember looking down the stairs.
didn't
Oh
your
yeah,
mom copy
okay, you
the
want me to
outfits
keep
for you
going?
girls?
My mom copied the outfits. She had a couple made for her. I think a navy and a good light blue and maybe a wine color, and then she had my sister and I each, she had them made for us, matching outfits. So she was also a seamstress, and we always were in matching outfits in the 60s and 70s until
That's,
maybe like seventh grade, probably.
I
We wouldn't
love
put up
that.
with it anymore.
I used to do that. My
I
mother used to
know.
do that with my sister and I too, back in the, same time frame.
Oh,
And
it was
yeah,
the
I
thing, but
hated it actually.
I like it when I see it.
And what you
Um,
started to tell me recently some story about, I don't even know if most people listening to this would remember Bobby Sherman, but I kind of remember him as a really little kid. But you said he threw up in your bed or something like that. What was that?
oh, stop bringing up all the stuff I told you. Yeah, I guess
Why not?
yes,
It's fun.
he,
That's the fun
yeah,
stuff.
oh my God, I'm gonna get in
Okay, you don't have
trouble
to
from
talk about it
somebody.
if you don't want to.
Um,
It's fine
and
if
well,
that's
no,
embarrassing.
no, he threw up in the closet. He
Oh,
threw up in the closet, and I was embarrassed because when he opened the closet, I had one of those 6 foot tall posters they used to make of him. So it was really embarrassing.
that's a great story, though. Come on, you got to admit it's okay. You can,
I
you know
know it
what?
is. It
It's a
is.
long time later. You can name drop. It's okay. You're on a podcast, and that's the kind of interesting stuff.
God,
But
super
I will
embarrassing.
let you off the hook because I know you're embarrassed. So thank you. But okay, let's go back to your story that you were trying to talk about. Now that your mom left him, and what happened to you when that happened? I mean, how are you feeling about that?
Well, I think I kind of saw it coming. I was pretty wise beyond my years, and it wasn't a lot of yelling so much as just the quiet, not talking. And it was uncomfortable. And I just knew. So when she told me separately, and that they were going to talk to us about it dinner that night, tell us about it. I think I don't remember being upset. She said, "You'll
Mm.
still see your father on the weekends, da da da." And I remember, like, I guess maybe I was used to it. I don't know. My younger brother and sister, we all felt safe in our house, and they were both so kind to us that I don't think it was like one of those big scary. I don't remember us all crying. I remember crying, but not like hysterical. And
Were you worried you weren't
and then
gonna?
he moved out.
Okay, with his kids? Did he take his kids?
Well, they weren't his kids. Those were my brother and sister. God, no. No, I
Wait,
wasn't worried. He included us all four at all times.
but that
But
was your bro. I thought that your mom had. I must have misunderstood you. Two kids with him. Teddy Benetti
she
and Mimi.
did.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
Teddy and
right. So
Mimi
she was
Benetti.
still their mom.
So
Of course, of course, of course. I mixed that up. I was thinking he
yeah, yeah,
brought them
yeah.
in
It
there.
gets confusing.
Yeah,
Believe
yeah.
me, I
No,
can type
no,
it up.
no.
Um,
I get it. Okay.
so no, but then that was their dream house, hers and his separately and together. It was a beautiful house in Los Altos. And because of Anne drowning in our pool,
Hmm.
my mom decided that she didn't want to be at that house anymore, and we moved to the last Eichler's that Eichler had his hand in Mountain View. It was only about mile and a half away off Miramonte. So we moved into a 4 bedroom, excuse me, Eichler, um,
And
in
Eichler is
Mountain
that.
View,
I was
oh,
going to just
sorry,
say
it's
what
the
an Eichler is.
architect,
People that don't know.
Eichler.
It's a style
Yeah, yeah,
from.
yeah,
It's a
sure.
mid-century style that's very open and usually lots of windows and single story and yeah. Just for those who don't know.
Exactly. And we didn't really like it. It was a new housing development, and it didn't have, everybody had one tree kind of thing that weren't grown yet. And everybody was moving in, and it was kind of weird for us. But anyway, we ended up loving it for there. Kids had to change school, but we were going to St. Francis, the Catholic school down there anyway, so it was all fine. So that's that. And they got divorced. And then she fell in love with a guy years later, 3 years later. I'm still in high school. And she fell in love with a guy named Barney Nielsen, who was a dentist in Saratoga. And they had met on a plane. He was coming back from climbing from Mount Everest. He never made it to the top, but they had weather problems. But they both were in jean outfits, I guess, and they ended up dating and fell in love and were together for 11 years. They were scheduled to get married in the Caribbean with his 3 daughters. He had 3 daughters, and I'm still close with them. They were scheduled to get married in the Caribbean, and they went for a test. They wanted to check out boats, and they wanted to do a barefoot boat, thing, marriage and 1 week thing or whatever. And she came back really, really sick. And it turns out she had full-blown kidney failure.
Mm.
This was a woman that played tennis a lot and made her own yogurt, for God's sakes, and she was really sick. And anyway, she called off the marriage. She didn't want to hold him down. They traveled a lot together. And then back that up, she's been running a marketing department. She's in marketing. Started working when we moved to the Eichler. Her first job was at the DMV. She quickly left there and built her marketing career. So she was very strong that way and was
Yeah.
supporting us kids.
Mm.
And she only got $132.50 for each kid from Tom Bonetti. So that was what, $525 back then.
Oh
in the
my
70s.
goodness. Wow.
Nothing, I tell you, nothing. It's like
Period?
PG&E bill now.
You mean one payment, not every month. One payment.
No, every month, $132.50 for all the kids. And then
Okay.
she obviously got a lump sum when they divorced. And I think she might have had spousal support, but not for very long, maybe.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
don't know how many years. I don't remember. And she
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
here to ask. But yeah, so but basically she made but us children really always came first. So and then when they were dating Barney, it was very good to her and spoiled her and was lovely, and they were madly in love. That was the love of her life,
Mm.
really. And the man after that one too. But he was the love. They had a real friendship and loving experience together. But she called it off, and they kept getting back together and breaking up. And he finally started seeing somebody else, and we would still talk to him and stuff, all of us. But anyway,
How is
and
that with
then the
you?
last one.
Wait, Amy,
Oh,
how I'm just
yeah, sorry.
no, that's okay. I'm just thinking this, you as the oldest daughter or the oldest child, like how were you? Was this just the norm? You just kind of got used to this with your mom. You weren't surprised, or were you protective of your mom? Were you protective of your siblings? What?
No, because they were always great men. They
Yeah.
were always great men, and we saw her happy, and we were happy. I mean,
Hmm.
Barney Nielsen was an amazing person, would take us all skiing in his big, you know, Suburban. And no, we had a lovely life. My mom ran a beautiful home. They traveled to Tahoe a lot. We were with my dad on the weekends. No, I had 3 new sisters. They never married, but I still talk to them all the time. They were close. We went
I
through a
mean, but
lot together,
I,
separately.
I think it's remarkable though, because that could have gone a whole different way. In fact, I had a friend on here, Dave Feingold, on my first episode, and he had a similar story in a completely different way, but his father kept getting more, more girlfriends, wives. He had more and more step siblings, and it was changing a lot. The difference is that, his dad had some serious issues, not like your mom. Your mom sounds like
Right?
she was a pillar of strength all the way through for you and kept that constant for you. And that allowed you to deal with all the change. But also, I think it's a testament to you and your own strength. But anyway, I'm just curious, was there a time when you were just, I guess not. It sounds like you never felt as the oldest that you were sort of having to keep stability for everybody else since your mom was
Oh,
changing a
oh
lot.
no, I absolutely did. Oh no, I absolutely did have to do that.
Yeah.
I absolutely was that person. And I was also the strong person for her, especially when she got sick when I was a senior in high school.
Mm,
And she almost died like 5 times very quickly. And she had 4 kids at home. My sister, who's a year younger than me, we kind of ran everything. But Mimi was like in first grade, and Teddy was like,
mm,
I don't know, they were little. So anyway, yeah, it was that those were the hard years, and that's why I moved home, obviously. And yeah, that's that. And she would cry a lot over Barney. She really missed him, and but she wanted to do the right thing for him instead of being selfish and keeping him. And he would have strayed anyway. He wouldn't have. He would want somebody with him when he wanted them with him for trips and whatever. So she was smart.
Yeah.
And he ended up marrying a woman that my mom knew. She didn't like that. But then, so now she's on dialysis all these years and she's by herself and really quite pleased with that. And then we all talk her into going to her 30th reunion, I think, high school. So she was like 40, I don't know, 48 or something. And this handsome man walks up to her and she says, Mason Biles. And he said, Valerie, you look as beautiful as ever. And they started talking. She lived in Palo Alto by this time. He lived in Menlo Park and they started dating. And that's who she was with the last 11 years of her life.
Wow.
And we love him. He's still alive. He just had a big birthday and I spoke to him for a long time. He has 3 sons. We're close with them and still in touch and see them. Not as often as I would like. And he was Mason was also a love of her life, and he was a saint. He took such good care of her, and he was her priority. And he was a senior exec at HP, graduated from Stanford, and went straight to HP and never left until he retired. And they lived in Palo Alto together and had a happy life. And then they lived in India. He took a CEO role to run a HP and another software company, and they lived in India for 2.5 years. And she came home with hepatitis A, B, and C,
Mm.
which is very bad.
Yeah.
And we put her into UCSF, where she also had her transplant. And
How old was
they
she?
didn't tell us that she was never going to get. So this is when she was 54. 54. She died in 1994 when she was 54. 56. Wait, I was 34. She was 56. Sorry. 56. And she was in there for 6 months. And Mason paid for a hospital room next door because all of us kids, my 3 stepsisters, 3 stepbrothers, and all 4 of us were there constantly. And they never told us that she was not going to ever get out of there. But everything just started failing. And so her insurance was running out, and Mason married her at the hospital so he got it approved by the board so she could be on his insurance.
Wow.
Anyway, it's
Oh,
a sad story.
I'm sorry.
It's so long ago now, and it still makes me cry.
Yeah.
And I don't, and I'm sorry that those relationships didn't work out for her, but she knew that the right one was out there, and she wasn't going to put up with all the BS that men can hand you, especially back then in the 60s and 70s. Anyway,
Oh,
it still makes me sad. I miss my mom a lot.
I,
We all do.
yeah, you are, and the thing is just,
Sorry.
no, please don't apologize. I miss my mom too, and it's been a really long time. But what I see in you telling her story is, again, like we started, this enduring love of a daughter for her mother. And it sounds like she was beloved by so many people, but she's
She really was.
clearly still alive in you. I mean, that is the cool thing about, being a loved person on this earth is that you stay alive through the people that you've um, given a part of
Right.
your soul to, I suppose. And you're more than
I
that. You're her
named my
daughter.
daughter Valerie.
Oh,
Hmm.
that's really nice.
Valerie.
Oh,
Yeah, it's nice for me. She wasn't perfect by any means, believe me. She was not perfect. When she got mad, she got really mad, which was like me too. She didn't get mad often, but when she did, it's really angry, and I get like that too. But I'm a lot like her in a lot of
yeah.
ways, except for the loudness and the hyperness, maybe. I don't know. But she has a piece in all my brothers and sisters. We lost my brother, the only boy, um, 5 years ago, which broke our
Mm,
heart and kind of dismantled our family in a lot of ways.
mm,
Then my dad died, and you know, Barney died, who was one that was with her before Mason. So there was just a lot of death all of a sudden in my life, and other friends and things. And so it's been quite a hard last few years, to be quite honest, with losing people,
mm.
which is never easy.
Never easy. I feel like sometimes it comes in waves too.
Mhm.
Um, well, what do you, I'm just thinking about you. I'm thinking about your daughter, Valerie, and I'm thinking, what have you taught Valerie that you learned from your mother? Clearly, you are uber responsible. You are a strong lady. You are a loving person. You're beautiful. Um, what have you, taken from all this and maybe passed along to her? And also, like, for somebody listening who's in a similar situation, with a lot of different people coming in and out of their lives, parents, just anything you'd like to share about those things?
No. What comes to mind is, well, as a joke, don't get married young for sure. But I was skipping. I didn't get married till I was 40, and we had her right away. Which was all it was way the way it was supposed to be. So that's I'm so happy for it. No, no, I just think she sees a loyalty to my friends. I'm a very loyal friend, and I never let people go my whole life. If they've done one mean thing, fine. If they've done a few icky things, then I'll take a break. But I really don't let people go that I've invested all that time with. I have friends since I was 3 and up. And and to be a little selfish. I wish I was more selfish, and I wish my mom was. And I think Valerie, I think she should go do what she wants to do and just be her, and take my little mom with me, take my mom with her, and take me with her. And she's definitely a little Sagittarian girl, and they are not the easiest to parent, but I'm so proud of her. She lives in New York, and she does have a piece of all of the women in her lives. I think we all do, and the men. She has a lot of her father in her. Um, but yeah, I'm blessed in so many ways, and love my life. And even though I've had a pretty hard life, this is I'll end it with this. When I tell anybody even half of that story, they go, "Well, like, how, did you have a hard life?" And I look at them like, "What? No." And they always look at me, but they say, "Well, how could you not?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And I don't think any of us would say that. The hardest part of my life was my mom getting sick, and that was the hardest thing for all of us, and it's broken us in so many ways. And also, we're
Because
all really strong.
and she was strong, and I think that knowing you had that constant in her, knowing you, she was always going to be there for you, probably really kept you guys going all the way through and taught that to you and imbued that in you. And then, of course, certainly when she wasn't here anymore, I mean, that's to try to get through that is really tough. And you'll always remember her. And I guess that's when you've lost people you love, it never goes away, that pain. But like they say, better to have, I'm miss cliche sometimes on this podcast, I must say, but the old better to have
Don't
loved than
worry.
lost, and lost than never have loved at all.
Never
And
to
you,
have loved it all. That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah. So I
Yeah,
believe that's
it's true.
true,
And I
as
have
hard
all
as it
these
is.
wonderful people in my life. I have all these brothers, not step brothers and sisters because they never married, but we say that, and I have all of that, and so I'm grateful. I'm grateful to her. I'm grateful to Tom Bonetti and Mason Biles and Barney Nielsen. And, you know,
She gave
I'm,
you a
I'm,
lot.
she did.
Yeah.
how to get along with all different kinds of people.
Yep. And
Maybe, I
that
don't
is a
know.
gift. Well, thank you so much for being
Yeah.
here and sharing this story. And it's
Oh,
a
thank
really
you,
interesting
Robin.
story. Yeah, it's a different story, and I love that. And I love I can just see what a loving person you are. And I hope this helps somebody
Oh,
who's
thank you.
listening. Yes, and thank you all for being here with us today
Me too.
too on Sub Stories. Yeah. All right.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day.
Thank
Bye.
you, Robin. I'm a fan. Okay, bye bye.